Hello everyone, my name is Green Nation, and yeah, this is a video I wasn't not expecting to make. I mean, uh, yeah, making a part 2 of episode 2 of How I Should Have Done It. Yeah. It's not that I don't think that there was enough, that the other video was, say, good. I liked it, which is why I posted it. But the more I watched it, the more I was like, something's not right. What am I forgetting something? And then I realized, oh wait, there were some talking points that I completely overlooked that were in my Terminator Dark Fate video, like new characters, going through the whole story from beginning to end, how it would have played out if I had done it. And yeah, I kind of yeah, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I should just make a part 2 to this whole thing, because why not? So, anyways, a little recap for anyone who hasn't seen the first video. If you haven't seen the first video and you're watching this, I would recommend watching my previous How I Would Have Done It episode called Creed Nation's Cats 2019. So I would recommend watching that first before watching this, because this is going to be a part 2 of that video. Okay, so start off. Okay, first of all, I think I should actually expand on something that I was talking about from the previous episode, involving the CGI that was in the film. Like I said, the CGI doesn't necessarily bother me, but it could have been better. Seriously, I'm not gonna deny that it could have been better, CGI at least. And in fact, my whole concept involving the CGI would probably be a lot more limited than what was actually in the film. I would actually do something more of something along the lines of, say, a mix between what the stage musical has and what Tom Hooper had in his film. And basically, character, not the character, the actor or actress would be wearing the costume similar to that in the stage musical. But when it comes to certain elements, like the ears, the cat ears, or the tail, I would use CGI for that. Telling people, look, this isn't real. It's based off of a stage musical, but we do want to give it an element of realism. So to say this is about as good as it can be, basically. Or maybe have a little more fur, real fur, like this being on the character actors. And maybe, and also, what was the deal about the noses? And the stage musical, they had in a stage musical, they would paint like the certain area of the lower portion of the actor's nose to, say, okay, this is the closest thing we can get to making your nose look similar to a cat's. But in Tom Hooper's version, yeah, why do they just have regular noses? I mean, don't you want to, maybe, actually, I want to know, is there an actual way you can actually, digitally remove the person's nose and replace it with the closest thing that you can get to what a cat's nose would look like? Because if you can easily do that, then problem solved. you got you can actually digitally add that. Of course, there is also the problem with the person moving about and also making sure that the nose is actually following the person around. So, I mean, there is a bit of a challenge to do that, but I mean, what's saying you can't try? All right. What? Who says you can't try? Seriously. I mean, seriously, English is the only language you actually understand, minus a few words in French, Spanish, and German, and Japanese, and you're already messing it up. I mean, seriously, you were born and raised in this country. You should know English like it's just the back of your hand, John. Seriously. Okay, enough of that fourth wall breaking and getting out of character. New characters. Would I incorporate any new characters? Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with adding, like, say, new characters if you want. Especially when it comes to cats, because it's actually not something new. It wouldn't be something new to the musical, mainly because, and the reason I say that is because in Japan they have their own version of Cats, which actually up until the pandemic was actually playing constantly from 1983 all the way to that point. In fact, they hold the record of doing the most continuous. Oh yeah, I'm tripping over my words. Up until the pandemic, they were like doing it for like 37 years, and from what I can find out, they hold the record of playing the musical the longest of any other country. In fact, they even have their own stage theater, to do their version of Cats. I'm not joking. You can look it up. It's someplace you can actually see. Okay, maybe not actually as of now because of said virus that must not be named. But I mean, oh, and speaking of which, speaking of new characters, they even incorporated this. Their version actually has a new character called Gilbert. Which, now that I think about it, is a very weird name for a Japanese production to actually incorporate into the musical. And surprisingly enough, unlike Broadway, who ended up changing the character Jemima's name to Syllabub, they actually have two separate characters, one called Jemima and one called Syllabub. Why couldn't you have just done that? I mean, instead of just, bending the knee down to your American overlords. And, dude, seriously, Tom Hooper, you're British and you hold citizenship from both Britain and Australia. I mean, seriously, what makes you think you can just bend the knee to some American universal overlord? Oh, wait, hold on. Given the political climate in this country as of now, as well as how Hollywood has been for, like, say, the past 5 years. With all the woke nonsense, I kind of... Actually, I'm not certain if that actually plays a factor, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Anyway. So yeah, the concept of adding a new character in is not something that's new to the musical. So I'd say, why not? Though I would want this character to be a little more, kind of in a similar way as Actually, to get a better understanding, I think I should probably just go right into how the story would have played out. Well, if any of you have actually seen the film, which I'm going to assume that the answer is no. And if anybody says yes in the chat, I'm going to tell you right now, I can easily identify a liar, even if you are typing it in a chat or a comment section. Okay? I've seen plenty of Sherlock Holmes stories, watched plenty of Sherlock Holmes movies, and I'm also a fan of that Sherlock series from BBS. So, don't even try to lie to me, okay? Just be honest. And just say you have not seen the film. And so, don't even bother trying. Anyway, now, in Tom Hooper's version, the character portrayed by Francesca Hayward, Victoria the White Kitten. Yeah, it's Victoria. Okay, look, I'm pretty sure T.S. Eliot was probably a huge fan of Queen Victoria, even though he was like only 13 when Queen Victoria passed away in 1901. And when he wrote the poems, actually, come to think of it, the character of Victoria, I think, was actually an original creation by Andrew Lloyd Webber and the other people involved with the original production of Cats, mainly because the character actually doesn't exist in any of the poems written by T.S. Eliot. I think about it. Okay. In Tom Hooper's version, Victoria is abandoned by her owner in a junkyard, which probably in the very weirdest way, actually, and just wrapped up in a bag and tossed up. I mean, like, you can tell this owner doesn't give two craps about a cat. Well, And she's found by the other cats, and they immediately break out into song. I mean, you don't even get to know any of these characters until after. You don't even get to start knowing what these characters are even like when until probably like when they. It's a work in progress. And like I said, it's kind of the whole point about the characters. They don't actually explain, I mean, in words, their personality. They kind of express it through, you know, this whole facial stuff. You know, how they move about, how you know how they interact with other. Sorry, I got slightly distracted by an ad that ended up popping up while I was making the video. It never happened before. Jesus. Anyway, how would I have done it? Well, I would have probably used a similar concept, except I would have changed it up a little differently. And like I said, Tom Hooper's version was set in the 1930s. I would have it being set in the 1980s. And what I would have done was have like this excuse me, have a delivery company truck in London actually come into the area, drop off a package, drop off a crate, I should say, more than a small sized crate, you know, big enough for a cat or two, and opens up, and you introduce to the newest character, a new character. You would eat. I'm tripping over my words again. It wouldn't be Victoria, like in Tom Hooper's version. It would actually be a new character, which, let's call him Kyle, for the sake of stuff. I mean, it's just a name. And why Kyle? I don't know, it's the first name that I thought of. Okay. And this character would actually be the only actually. One of two characters who are actually American. Actually came from America, would traveling to England. But reason why they are in England right now, that's actually a bit of a mystery that goes around in my version up until you get to the end. The other character who's with him, also American, would be the character of Mr. Mistopheles, the magical cat. And you might be asking, why American? Why make Mr. Mistopheles American? Well, I mean, that wasn't actually my original plan, but I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason. Just wait until. And Mistopheles, or Misto, as he would be constantly called throughout the film, would actually that he knows some cousins who could actually give them shelter for the night, or maybe a little entertainment. Introduced to the family, and we break out into the first song. And then, of course, and of course, and I think this was actually better humor than having just a bunch of cat puns in it. But in the '98 film, and in fact in most productions of the musical, there was actually one point during that first song where they were singing in unison, sort of. There would suddenly be like this huge boot that folds down and just briefly interrupts the whole thing. And so I was like, maybe that would actually be an interesting addition to a film adaptation of Cats. And so it's like, hey, it happens right in the middle of the whole thing, and say this new character doesn't like make some kind of cat pun or anything like that. He goes more along the lines of, dang, that's one big boot. Something like that. I mean, make it humorous for the audience, like roll their eyes and like, oh, cat pun. Oh, yeah, this is because they're cats. Jeez, this is so. I mean, seriously, it's the kind of jokes that put people to sleep, not make them laugh. Well, for the most part, anyway. I mean, I didn't laugh, but I mean, it didn't put me to sleep. Because I was watching the thing in the bloody theater. Anyway, the character is not exactly, the character of Kyle doesn't know who these cats are and doesn't know what this whole concept of being what they refer to themselves as Jellicle cats. That's JELLICLE. And Jody, for the record, when you ended up saying it, you said Jelsicle. Okay, it's not Jelsicle, it's Jellicle. Jellicle. They're Jellicle cats, okay? It's in the poems. I don't even know. Where did Jelsicle come from? Where did Jelsicle come from? I mean, it's Jellicle. It's pronounced Jellicle. Sorry. And explained by going through the whole naming of cats portion of the song. Which, to be honest, the first time I listened to it, it was kind of intimidating because they were kind of saying it in like, they weren't exactly singing. They weren't singing it. They were just saying the poem, like, look, I'll show you. Hold on. I actually have the book of poems in which the musical was based off of. Opossum's Book of Practical Cats. That's where most of these songs come from. Book by T.S. Eliot. And for the record, I got this long before I ever decided to even start YouTube videos. To give you an idea, I mean, seriously, listen to this and tell me your skin would not crawl by having, like, say, several dozen of these cats saying this in unison. Ready? No, of course you're not, because you weren't exactly expecting this. I mean, heck, I wasn't even planning on doing this. Alright. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You might think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there is the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Demetus, Electra, Demeter, but all of them sensible, everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind, I can give you a quorum. Okay, maybe it's not exactly word for word in the musical, but, yeah. Okay, I was not expecting that. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. Such as Munkustrap, Quaxo, or Caracopat, such as Bomballerina, or else Jellylorum. Names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name that you never will guess. The name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in the rapt contemplation of the thought, of the thought, of the thought of his name, his inevitable, effable, if found inevitable, deep, and inscrutable, singular. Okay, tell me. Okay, if anybody in the chat tells me they got chills when I said that, not exactly in the same way as the musical, but pretty much trying to emphasize what it was like in the musical. If you got chills up your bones, please tell me by all means. And maybe get a little more interested. Hopefully. Anyway, the character Victoria would still do her solo dance. And when I mean solo, I mean solo. I mean not having the sort of dance duet with one character that you notice in the trailers. Yes, it was in the trailers. It would be completely solo, no help. And of course, they explain what exactly is happening this night. Right? Which it basically follows this whole entire thing, and it's in this entire line. And if you do not follow it, but if you don't know exactly what happens this night, well then, let me use another concept from what is in the musical. Unfortunately, it's not in this. It's actually an original thing that they actually wrote for the musical. It basically goes like this. Jellicle cats meet once a year. Let's see. Jellicle cats meet once a year at the Jellicle Ball, where we all rejoice. and the Jellicle leader will soon appear and make what is known as the Jellicle choice. When old Deuteronomy, just before dawn, through a silence you feel you could cut with a knife, announces the cat that can now be reborn and brought back to a different Jellicle life. For waiting up there is the Heaviside lair, full of wonders one Jellicle only will see. And Jellicles ask, because Jellicle's there, who will it be? Now, if you don't get the whole premise of what this whole story is supposed to be about from that entire thing, all on its own, then I'm sorry. You clearly don't understand the English language. And that's not me insulting you. That's just me saying the blatant truth and clearly just saying, look, study a little more, know the English, understand the whole meaning of this stuff in the English language, and hopefully you can actually understand what's being told. Or oh boy, I'm drilling off very fast. Anyway, songs would still be, and the songs would still be in the exact same order as well, unlike this one. I mean, and this whole thing, the poems are just, all over the place. I mean, there's no particular order in which it's actually supposed to be in, but in the musical, they would pretty much remain in the same order that they were always in. And for like example, the first song would still be The Old Gumpy Cat. Then afterwards, The Rum Tum Tugger. Again, not being done by Jason Derulo, but somebody completely different and maybe a little more professional in how to do this crap. And then of course, Grizabella, the Glamour Cat, which unfortunately is not actually a poem in this whole thing. It's actually comes from an unpublished poem from T.S. Eliot. That is, unfortunately, you can only find in the musical. And for some odd reason, it seems to be the only portion of the musical that I always seem to skip, because I can't bring myself to watch that. It's just something about it. I don't know. The whole, it probably has something to do with the whole mood. It just makes me not want to watch that whole portion. Seriously, normally I wouldn't. That's not the only thing that I have a problem watching when it comes to musical. The Sound of Music has the whole portion with Liesl and Rawl that I always found extremely disturbing. Not saying that I have a problem watching it. It's just very uncomfortable. Well, I've only seen Hamilton once. I would have to watch it again to see if there was anything that made me want to skip it. So I can't exactly say anything about that right now. Anyway, what comes after that one? Oh yes, Bustopher Jones would be the one that comes afterwards, and I don't know. The one part, when it comes, you know what? Hold on. I'll get to the point when I get to this guy's song. Then afterwards would be Mungo Jerry and Ripple Teaser, which I like to think is like the cat versions of Merry and Pippin from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, if you want to see that, go to my fanfiction site. It's at archiveofourown.com. It's under the name Creed Nation. That's it's spelled exactly like the my YouTube name, except there's an underline in between the Creed and the Nation, not a space, because apparently Archive of Our Own doesn't recognize the space bar. Then next song would be Old Deuteronomy, which is basically the introduction of the Jellicle leader. And then, of course, they break out into that. And then, of course, they briefly go over the one portion that is the Song of Jellicle Cat. No. The Song of the Jellicles. And then they break out into the fantastic... Can you excuse me for a minute? Okay, never mind. Unfortunately, I won't be able to edit that out because apparently I'm cheap. This is where they would break out into the excellent dance choreography in the musical, and also give you a bit of a hype when you get that 80s feeling from the soundtrack. I mean, everything from techno to just imagine, listen to the thing and imagine that was being done by an 80s music. In the style that was used back in the 80s. I mean, it would just be so hype. Like, yeah, this is my crap. Okay. And then, of course, Grisabella would come in again, try to do the whole dance thing, but of course, realizes she's way too old with this kind of thing, and gives you a prelude to her song, Memory. Just a prelude, not the whole thing. Then we get the original song from the musical called Moments of Happiness, sung by Old Deuteronomy, and then a little while later by the character Jemima. Then we get to the other song, like a Gus the Theater Cat. And to be honest, this is probably the only part that I think is actually kind of interesting, because I think it makes a callback to the original, to the 98 film, because in the 98 film, they actually had the actor Sir John Mills portraying the character of Gus, the theater cat. And yes, I'm talking about the same John Mills that portrayed the father in Disney's Swiss Family Robinson. That John Mills. I mean, yeah. And yes, by the time by 98, he actually did this, and also did it even though he was completely blind. Was completely blind and still went through all that. Wow. I mean, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. Then afterward, and of course in the new and Tom Hooper's film, they had Ian McKellen portraying the character, which actually was quite fitting. So maybe if I did my version, I probably would have had Ian McKellen too. I mean, okay, and then afterwards, Skimbleshanks, the Railway Cat. And to be honest, this is aside from Taylor Swift's performance in the film, this is the only part that people actually say was the highlight of the movie. Go see the clip is actually available on YouTube on both Universal's official Universal's official YouTube channel. No, Skimbleshanks, the Railway Cat. Give it a watch, and trust me, you'll probably have second thoughts about not watching the film. Trust me. Not saying that was the whole thing that actually made me watch the film, I'm just saying. Then afterwards, the villain song, Macavity. And like the tagline here says, the mystery cat. And yeah, unlike Tom Hooper's version where they have him like just appearing everywhere, I would honestly keep that whole thing intact. Make the whole thing basically about the mystery of this character. Like you don't necessarily know who this character is. You just know he's a very bad guy, did a lot of bad things. So much to the point that I ended up getting Scotland Yard involved for some other. I mean, I think the cops have better things to do than just worry about a criminal cat. Unless the character is Catwoman. And the person on the side of the law was Batman. That's probably the only time it's an exception. Then, of course, old Deuteronomy gets kidnapped for reasons that are best left unknown. And then pretty much just like in the movie, they try to figure out how do we find old Deuteronomy. Like, we can't just magic her. Okay, I don't know why this was done, but now that I think about it, I might as well mention it. Old Deuteronomy in the musical, throughout every single stage musical that I've seen so far, you can correct me on this if you want, but out of every single stage musical I've seen or actually know about, never once have I ever seen Old Deuteronomy being portrayed by a woman. Now, that's not to say that I didn't enjoy Judi Dench's performance. I mean, she's probably... I like Judi Dench, but... why this? I mean, if I wanted to cast somebody as Old Deuteronomy, I would have had it. I mean, whether it was a man or a woman, because I mean, Judi Dench was actually one of the actually planned to be given the role of Old Deuteronomy in the original musical back in 1981, but due to breaking her Achilles heel, I'm not joking, really did happen, they had to switch up the cast a little bit and make Old Deuteronomy a guy. And that's how it's been ever since. But whether it was a man or a woman I was going to cast for Old Deuteronomy, I would have had someone who was professional in the realms of opera, because that's the kind of vibe I got whenever I listen to Old Deuteronomy, like any version of Old Deuteronomy, like an operatic kind of person portraying the character. So when he or she, however, gets kidnapped, they say, we gotta find Old Deuteronomy. Like, we can't just magic him or her back here. Which kicks off the next song called Mr. Mistopheles. And it would not be sung by Rum Tum Tugger in my version. It would actually be sung by the new character, which I'm still going to call Kyle for reasons. Because I mean the whole purpose behind the thing is that basically I don't know if anybody even supposed to know this character, so I'm going along the lines of they don't actually, certain of these cats know who Mistopheles is, but everybody else is a complete mystery because they're not family per se, maybe not by blood, but memory. And I mean it's kind of I'd say it's the best way to actually make it more similar to what the stage musical had. You know, they're all in the dark. There's this one spotlight that just shines on the character who does the song, and maybe get a little bit of a newer kind of style instead of the whole Mick Jagger style, you know, of Rum Tum Tugger, because that's actually the person that Andrew Lloyd Webber based the Rum Tum Tugger off of, Mick Jagger. Actually, now that I think about it, they're both Tugger, Jagger. What do you know? Makes a rhyme. So I decided, hey, why don't I switch it up a bit? Use a different style instead of Mick Jagger. Good. Maybe like Queen or Michael Jackson or maybe even Journey. I need just something that's a little different than the style that we already got. Now that I think about it, I'm gonna have to bring something else up at the end of the video. They bring old Deuteronomy back through magic and crap. Grizabella comes back, sings her song Memory, with a little help from the character of Jemima. Then old Deuteronomy chooses her as the Jellicle choice. She's sent off to the Heaviside lair, and then that's where we get the song "The Addressing of Cats." It's just a little nice song. And yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, and I did mention there was kind of a mystery as to why the character of Kyle and Mistopheles was actually in England. You know. Well, to be honest, if I told you what it was like at the end, why spoil the surprise? Oh, and according to this, there's actually an actual poem that apparently does not appear in any of the adaptations of the musical outside of just one performance of it at some performance at in Paris that was specifically meant for that version for some one reason or the other. I would also try to find a way to incorporate this one poem, which never actually appeared among these poems until a revision of it in 1952. Poem is called Cat Morgan Introduces Himself, and it's a pretty short. It would be a pretty short one. This is how it goes. I once was a pirate what sailed the high seas, and now I've retired as a commissionaire, and that's how you find me, taking my ease and keeping the door in a Bloomsbury Square. I'm partial to partridges, likewise the grouse, and I favor that Devonshire cream in a bowl. I'm always content with a drink on the house and a bit of cold fish, and I done meet patrol. Ain't got much polish, me manners is gruff, but I've got a good coat and I keep myself smart. And everyone says, and I guess that's enough, you can't, but like Morgan, you got a good heart. I got knocked about on the Barbary Coast, and me voice ain't no such maleficent Cogan. But yet I can state, and I'm not one to boast, that some of the gals is dead keen on old Morgan. So if you've got business with Faber, I'll give you this tip, and it's worth a lot more. You'll save yourself time, and you'll spare yourself labor if just you make friends with the cat at the door. It's a pretty short one compared to all the other ones. I mean, yeah, sure, it's got like five stanzas in it, but I mean, it's pretty much, it's a pretty short one if you think about it. I mean, I said in like probably what, 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah. Of course, now that I think about it, the way that it's designed, I kind of imagine the character possibly being portrayed by someone who's Scottish, maybe Irish, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, that's how the story would play out. Though the kind of romance thing that's in the Tom Hooper film between Mistopheles and Victoria, I probably would have done that too. Well, maybe so. Yeah, I probably would have had that too. And with the character of Kyle, I would probably have him have this sort of romantic relationship with Jemima by the end. Because, I mean, to be honest, Jemima is actually one of my favorite characters in the film and the stage musical. And it has nothing to do with looks, but personality. Anyway. Oh. Anyway, that's that. Now, hopefully I can just put this whole thing to bed, and hopefully we can just, move on with our lives, and hopefully I never have to talk about this again. Unless, of course, I actually get into contact with Andrew Lloyd Webber and actually make this whole thing a reality. Then you can moan and groan and complain all you want online and say, oh, brother, this guy's killing it. Because let me just tell you one thing. I mentioned this plenty of times on Joni's Corner, but, and mentioning that I came up with a concept of a prequel and or sequel to Cats. Let me just say, and it involves like Michael Jackson. Yeah, that's no longer happening. I completely abandoned that concept. It's not happening. Though that's not to say that it didn't inspire me a bit. Then leave a certain impact. And this is the impact that it left. Decided, hey, if I don't think a sequel or prequel would actually work for Cats, but hey, that's not to say that I can't style the original musical after this. And what better way with a film adaptation by yours truly. Well, tune in next time. We'll be tune in next time, whenever that's going to be. Maybe not for a while, but I'm actually going to be doing a 3-part mini-series that will be a historical examination that's called USA, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What you must know about this whole thing, I'll be going over things that are great about the United States, things that are bad, just bad, and things that have stained America, and also going about destroying some of the myths behind America that a lot of people today actually believe are real, but in reality they're just a bunch of bull, basically. Just a bunch of bull crap. So tune in when that comes out, and I'll see you then.